Hi everyone. This week we are going to cover some of the AI executive actions from the White House.
And we'll also cover off some new information as it released from Claude as far as some of their new focus areas and a new model from a another company out in China.
And your office is going mobile. Now you can actually do a lot of work in your car if you have the Mercedes. Plus, we will also talk about some of the AI impact on the jobs. I know everybody is interested in that.
Yep. And to round it off, we'll also get into some additional news on vibe coding from at least two different companies this week.
That and more. Stay tuned for a quick introduction. We'll be back. Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. If you're looking to stay up to date on the AI, this is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co-host.
Hello, everybody. Jamie Basilico, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. And as a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft.
Jamie, welcome back. You had a ton of a great time in Alaska, the beautiful time of the year to be in Alaska. Tell us a little bit more about it.
It was awesome. I highly recommend if anyone gets a chance or if it's on your bucket list, definitely do it. Alaska is a awesome place. Just its scenery, the wildlife, nature. We did a little bit of everything from looking at and watching glaciers to walking through the national parks out there, seeing everything from bald eagles to whales. Even did a little bit of gold mining. So not that I'm retiring anytime soon, but I got a couple of flakes of gold directly right out of the river in Alaska. So it was a very cool experience.
Okay, gold digger. How was the temperature there? Is it cold in summer as well?
No, we totally lucked out. If I guarantee you, if I go to Alaska again, I will not get this lucky. We had temperatures in the low 70s, no rain at all in every one of our stops. I was on a cruise, so people told us pack for winter, summer, fall. Basically every season. But I was out there in shorts, so the weather was perfect.
Awesome. You are lucky, Jamie.
Yeah.
It was a bit boring doing everything alone, but I'm glad that you're back. We have a lot to talk about this week. Uh,
Yep.
that week, actually, we had, let's start with the quote of the week. And I'll start with a quote from none other than President Trump. I start with the quote: America is the country that started the AI race. And as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. He also expanded on his desire to limit restrictions and regulations on AI development. Um, Further goes on, he says, quote, a beautiful baby that is born. We have to grow that baby and let that baby thrive. We can't stop it. We can't stop it with politics. We can't stop with foolish rules. Trump said further that he added that he doesn't like the name artificial intelligence because I don't like anything that is artificial. Unquote. I thought that I'll try to do impression, but I'm really so bad at it. There was no point in doing it. Um, but some good stuff there. Let's talk about what were those executive orders. So there were actually three executive orders that were passed. The first order is its title: Accelerating Federal Permitting of Data Center Infrastructure. That order aims to fast track AI infrastructure development in the country by easing the regulations on the data centers and the digital facilities. Right? We all know that like infrastructure is a bottleneck in scaling out the AI, and that's what it targets to ease. With the regulations and streamlining process, etc. The second order, which is titled as Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government, unquote. Of course, a bit more political. It says that AI systems developed with federal funding must remain ideologically neutral. He said, we are getting rid of woke. Trump said AI must be accurate and not influenced by ideology. He added that the administration will not support woke technology, and said earlier policies slow down innovation by focusing on diversity and inclusion. Again, um, leave aside the political part of it, but essentially, what this order aims to do is essentially get rid of the influence, right, from an ideological point of view. Um, so that's what this second one, and it has certain again compliance and regulations and all those things and best practices that you should follow. The third part is the third order is promoting the export of the American AI technology stack. And this one focuses on the export of US built AI products and plans to reduce dependency on foreign platforms and supply chains, aka basically restricting the Chinese AI influence and in some other countries as well, but primarily Chinese AI, right? So I think that's what these three executive orders do. Now, there is actually a pretty good 28-page AI strategy document, right? It's a huge one, to read about it, but it goes in detail about all these actions and further, the steps they're going to take to influence these aims.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when you look at those three main orders, the first and third are, at least to me, at least, are the ones that are more impactful. Certainly, like woke AI. I don't know if anyone remembers when Google first put out some of their models. There were some issues with the responses in the model itself. So yeah, while it's one thing, focus on how they're being trained. I fully agree with that. But what I think is going to move the needle more is how quickly can we get more infrastructure up. There's certainly data centers that are being built and put into production already from the main foundational players. Those companies like OpenAI, AWS, Google, so on and so forth, and Meta in there as well, that are really, already putting up infrastructure. But when you think about, some of the things with the federal government, the backing of our, tax dollars to build these things, if we're able to reduce, whatever red tape might be in there to develop those things, I think that will obviously it'll obviously start to build out the infrastructure quicker, but that also means more jobs for where they're being implemented. It means that the technology could be put to use in a quicker fashion to help spur on maybe additional research or delivery out to the masses. We don't have to worry about slowdowns. So I think that first order is key, especially for how we're able to accelerate our own research labs here in the US. And then obviously, on the export side, I even did see some things in the news lately around some of the NVIDIA chips being able to go to China. I think again, any US based company that is doing AI, whether it's on the hardware side or the models themselves, if we're able to export that, that only helps US based companies. Now, again, don't get me wrong, we have to make sure that we're aligning with security and those things and don't release like maybe some of the latest hardware that might reduce our security posture. But outside of that, it's all about how we're able to promote our US based companies.
True, and I think this will definitely help a lot from the infrastructure point of view as well, because that could become a glass ceiling on the AI development. Essentially, what these orders are doing is that basically saying that all bets are off. We're going to go full stream in the AI development. This is a race. This is a race, just like what was the space race, right? That going to the moon race, and we got to win this, just like we won that race. And that's what really the focus is. So essentially, the guard race and safety is going to be secondary. The focus is winning the race, keeping the control, and make sure that the American version of AI becomes a de facto with the allies and partnership, right? To avoid the influence, right? I mean, we all know, I mean, AI is not just a tool, it's just it's everything, right? It's a new lifestyle, it's a tool, it's a technology, it's a platform, but it is also a weapon, right? It is also defense, everything combined. So no wonder. Now, that AI, that 28-page strategy document, that has essentially three parts to it. Okay, the first one is accelerating AI innovation and talks about to remove the red tapes, to speed up the private sector R&D. It promotes the open source and open weight models, um, launching the AI regulatory sandboxes plus center of excellences. Then it also talks about expanding AI adoption in defense, government, federal, and critical industries. It talks about a national AI evaluation ecosystem for safety and benchmarks, investing heavily in AI enabled science and public release of scientific data sets used in the AI research. Bunch of things. And also, not to forget, upskilling the workforce through apprenticeships, tax-free AI training, and retraining programs, etc. But then it also talks about combating synthetic media and deep fakes in the legal systems, right? So that's the first section of what is talking about accelerating AI innovation. The second part is building the American AI infrastructure, which is essentially, again, streamlining permits, easing the regulations, modernizing the grid, rebuilding the US semiconductor manufacturing, data centers, all those kind of things. So I think that of course that helps a lot of big tech and the companies as well. We know about the Stargate uh, project as well. The third part is leading in the AI diplomacy and security. And this is where the soft power comes in, right? So essentially exporting the US AI hardware models, the standards to allies and partners, cracking down on chip export loopholes. We know that there have been loopholes, etc. I think NVIDIA is also developing a very Chinese specific chip now, right? To basically cater to that. It's a delicate balance, as you said, right? I mean, you want to control technology, but if you completely withhold, well, other nations are going to find out and they will figure out some other ways to do it. So you have to find a delicate balance in letting this out to the allies so that they continue to be dependent and they use your standards, but then also not giving out your competitive advantage. That's what this essentially strategy document is doing. By the way, um, this the other aspect of this is this, that this AI action plan, it recommends that the federal government consider a state's AI regulatory climate when considering how to distribute federal funding for AI related programs. And that's going to be touchy, right? We already know that as part of the big beautiful bill, that provision was actually voted out, because like you cannot prevent the state completely to actually withhold any AI regulations, right? That didn't really pass through. So that's going to be tough. But it does actually plan to do that to avoid the state level regulation. The other part is that the AI Safety Institute, which was actually announced under Biden in November 2023, that would be renamed and transformed into the Pro Innovation, Pro Science US Center for AI Standards and Innovation, right? So just a little bit of spin of the words, but it's a massive shift in the stance on the safety and the standards. Okay. All right. Let's talk about other things as well. Just quick rapid fire news. The Pentagon last week announced multi-million dollar contracts with four artificial intelligence companies, which is basically Anthropic, Google, Grok, and OpenAI. There were some eyebrows raised because of the Grok's inclusion at the later stage, but that's what it is. Like just continuing on that same theme, the government agencies, etc. Everybody is like trying to use AI as much as possible, and they're opening the floodgates of this spend. On the other hand, OpenAI is also expanding their own UK office and working with the government departments there to turbocharge UK's AI infrastructure and transforming public services. Well, the underlying theme is that there is just going to be a lot of government collaboration with the companies and the spending coming from them as well.
Yeah, and just one quick thing from Google. I talked about vibe coding. So Google just launched a new tool called Opal, which it's really in the testing phase through Google Labs, and it allows people to build simple web pages just by describing what they want. So no coding needed. Yeah, again, think of it as vibe coding for the masses, where you can create these AI powered web pages directly from this new Google Labs offering, again called Opal.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the launches. First of all, from the Anthropic side, Claude actually they released a couple of weeks ago. They released something called the Finance Solution Cloud for Financial Services. It's like a verticalized AI solution. As part of this, you get the Claude, with lots of connectors related to the financial services, financial data sets, etc. You get some NCP enabled servers as well, and some you also get certain connectors and plugins, etc., for the financial services. So essentially, they're targeting that particular industry. OpenAI also has something similar. They call it, I think, AI for Finance solution. Again, um, what is interesting is that these companies are going now one by one after specific segments, right, and going at to the application level, because that's where the money is, right? I mean, you got to get to the domain level, industry level, and start building out those applications. Just remember that OpenAI actually, Fiji. She was the CEO of Instacart, and she had actually joined as the applications, this head of applications at OpenAI. So there's a lot more focus on building those apps. That's where really the big bucks are. The other part is that I think this is also very interesting. Like, this is they did that already with the Figma, and I talked about it earlier. This one is like, now you can turn your content into professional design with Claude plus Canva. So you can upload any document or blog post, guide, etc., and then you can ask Claude to turn it into branded visuals, right? So, and then that you can open that into Canva. So I think there is a good connection and integration between those tools happening. I think we should try that out, Jamie, because we use Canva as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say we should try that. I'm always curious on, integrations between tools, and this would be an easy one to test. So, let me chat about a new launch, another model. Again, this one's coming from China. It's from the company Moonshot AI, and the model is called Kimi 2. Their website is somewhat tongue in cheek. They've got a very interesting FAQ, which just side note, they're like, "Is this a new car?" So no, it's a new open source model. So it's a very large model. It's got over 1 trillion parameters. It's got 32 billion active at once. So it uses a mixture of experts in terms of in architecture and design. It's got a fairly sizable context window. Pretty much the standard these days of 128,000 tokens. It was trained on a fairly vast amount of data. So over 15 trillion words or tokens used for training. And it really was focused on specializing in the optimizer for stability. It does come in two different models or two different modes, really. One is a base mode, which is the one, again, typical use, and it's used for the research side. There's also instruct model. Think of it as like fine tuned for coding and chatting and tool use. What's interesting, and if you go to their website, and it'll be in our show notes, is they at least they show in their scores for the typical things that you would score against that they either meet or exceed other models out there, whether or not it's GPT-4, Claude, and against different benchmarks, whether it's coding, math, and or the reasoning side of this. As I mentioned already, this is an open source model, so anyone can use it, modify it, deploy it, and seems fairly capable. One caveat, again, it's from China, so if you're going to use it, certainly take it, deploy your own on your own hardware, and then run that way, so you don't have any risk of security breaches or data that will get quote unquote lost.
Okay. So, like as you said, is it a car? Is it?
Yeah.
Funny, I think it did sound like actually a car model.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you go to their website. Switching gears a little bit, we're talking about some other launches as it relates to Microsoft. So this one just hit the I guess the airwaves 2 or 3 days ago, depending on when you're watching this. But GitHub Spark was announced a couple months ago, but it actually hit into public preview. So what is it? So it's part of GitHub, and it's a powerful tool for basically bridging this gap between like an idea that I want to build and then the implementation of an application. So this thing is a full stack deployment tool. Again, think of it as this vibe coding, but it goes way beyond just the vibe code. It'll start to not only build the code and the application that you want, but it ties back in to things like the language models and fully deploy. Again, if you're using something like a large language model, do Gen AI as far as your app, it actually deploys all that. So it's a front end, it's a back end, all powered in the back by Claude Sonnet 4.0. So there's nothing that you have to do in terms of quote unquote setup for your app. It hosts it, it runs the data, it does the LLM inferencing based upon what it needs to deploy. And the interesting part, since it is part of the GitHub ecosystem, the authentication through GitHub are all included when you deploy this. It's got integrated AI into it. And again, like I mentioned, depending on what you want to deploy, it'll deploy OpenAI models, meta models, DeepSeek, those from XAI. And no key management is required either. So again, this is all out of the box, making it so much easier for developers or non-developers alike to actually build and create these things. Now, what is also interesting with this is that it's got Copilot integration within it itself. So it could connect into code spaces or assign various different issues, think of it as tasks, out to the Copilot coding agent that will go directly from Spark itself. So there's this integration between the two. Now, this is all sounds great, but is it available to everybody? No. You actually have to be a Copilot Pro Plus user, but there will be broader rollout plan. So if anyone wants to go check this out, it's github.com/Spark. We'll put that into the show notes as well. But it's going to be it's a very interesting tool to use. I kind of played around with it already. Speaking of playing around and using a tool, I know, Shadab, you mentioned the ChatGPT agents last week. Since we're talking about coding agents, while ChatGPT agents isn't necessarily a coding agent, it's more or less an agent built into ChatGPT. I kind of wanted to show an example because it got rolled out. I was while I was in Alaska, I was actually checking my accounts and I was kind of waiting to get this in there, and it popped into my ChatGPT environment just a couple of days ago. But let me show something very quickly on this capability. Like I said, it's pretty pretty interesting on its use. So not going to take any more than like 30 seconds to explain this, but as you can see, I'm in ChatGPT in my environment. When you do this, you basically say, like, what tool you want to use, and in this case, you specify the agent tool. And then there's other things that you could tell it to actually use. One caveat, which I know you walked through last time, is this is still in like the preview format, and security, your mileage may vary on what's actually going to be secured. So I have not connected this certainly into any of my email or things like that. You certainly can, but just be aware of it. But I gave it a very simple task to do: research 3 top competitors in the EV market and create a slide deck summarizing strengths, weaknesses. So if just a reminder for folks, what the agent in ChatGPT does, it basically brings together researcher and operator into one, and then enables it to just run on its own instead of being interrupted. So when you look at what this thing did for 24 minutes, so I ran this before we started the recording, it actually spins up a virtual environment. It opens up a browser and acts like a human by browsing those web pages, pulls that information back, and then feeds it basically into the agent researcher component to then build things. So if you notice what I said here is go research the EV market and then create a slide deck. So it worked for 24 minutes, did all that. What's really cool with this is I could replay those 24 minutes on all the things that it actually hit. But then here's the output. So, it's giving me, hey, here's all the leaders, the strength, the weaknesses of each of those different companies that are out there. And then since this is an agent and I told it to create a presentation deck, it actually just did that automatically. And here's the deck that it created for me. And I could, I could download this, but I could actually even see this exactly what I'm doing here. So this is one of those things with this agent. You could fire off a prompt or question, let it rip. Basically, you send it and forget it, and you come back and see what it's generated for you. So very powerful, and this should be rolling out if you haven't seen it yet. It should be in your again. You have to be on the Teams, the Pro Plus, the Pro or the Plus subscription. If you do not see it, log out and log back in again, because that's what I had to do a couple days ago to be able to see this. So anyway, I thought that would be a real cool, quick thing just to show everybody, since I know you talked about it last week.
Awesome. Yeah, I still haven't got the access to it. I'm waiting for it as well, and will play as soon as this is available.
Yeah, like I said, it's cool. Definitely start to try to use it. So what else do you got for us in terms of a launch? I heard there may be some things. I know that we talked about a car with the Kimi 2, but I believe there's some things coming out, at least from Microsoft, around mobile office in your car.
Oh yeah, that, and this one I'm particularly excited because I do have a Mercedes car. So this story is for Mercedes Benz. They are integrating Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 Copilot into its vehicles, and which means that it transforms the car into a mobile office. What happens is that when you are in a car, you can actually use the Teams calls. You can use the in-car camera for the Teams calls, and that means that it allows the other participants to see the driver while driving. But you can't see the screen, right? So you cannot see. As soon as you start driving, your screen goes blank, in the sense that you can't see the video of the other person, but the other person continue to see you while you're driving, right? So that's one safety feature. As soon as you start driving, there is also a Microsoft Intune, which is integrated, which means that it allows essentially secure access to your business accounts from the devices. That's the purpose of Microsoft Intune. This is based on the new version of the Meetings for Teams app, which allows drivers to join video calls, manage corporate data. It also has Microsoft 365 Copilot, so which will assist the drivers in organizing tasks, emails, and meetings using the voice commands. So this is essentially part of the MB.OS, which is Mercedes-Benz's OS system in the new Mercedes CLA, and it will be expanded to other models as well with the fourth generation MB.OS. So I don't know if it's going to be rolling out to my car or not, but I'm very excited about this.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical on having people watch me as I drive. That's a different story.
That's true. We have to stop picking our nose there. But yeah, let's talk about another news story. Actually, Jamie, this was published on the NBC News, and I found it so interesting. So this is where basically the AI. This is part of our AI use case that we discussed. How AI is helping patients fight insurance denials. And we all know in US this could become a major pain when you get denied, right, for a particular claim, right? It has happened, I think, a lot of folks, including myself as well. So and there's a very good, we will have that in the show note as well, on this NBC News story. This is about a mother. Actually, she's battling a stage 4 melanoma. um, she was denied the insurance treatment for a drug to treat severe arthritis caused by that cancer treatment. And despite the doctor's recommendations, the insurer continued to deny the coverage for 9 months. Finally, they actually turned to a company called Claimable Inc., which actually helped them create an appeal. And this is an AI powered appeal created with a 23-page document and letter that was sent back to the company. And within 2 days, they received the approval, right? So happy ending there. Essentially, what it does is this AI, this company, Claimable AI, Inc., they use AI to generate those. They do the research with we all know that, like, the terms and conditions. Who reads that, man? All these things, but it digs into that. It identifies where it is applicable and not, and then it basically creates this appeal letter and send it. Um, you know that this is kind of a, you can say, kind of a loophole, right? Because in the system, less than 1% of the denied claims are appealed, and that's why this could be questionable. But with this kind of tool, it can actually help a lot of patients who are essentially in the need of those kind of approved claims. Otherwise, they can't afford it. So, pretty good use case actually for AI.
No, that's a great use case. I mean, all of these, you know, I'll put it this way. I mean, we saw the rise of all of these like chatbots a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Now we're starting to get into, use cases, and there's obviously business related use cases, but then there's these. How does AI actually help us in our daily lives as individuals? And this is a great story around that. It's doing something where it was either insurmountable, difficult, or just plain just time consuming. Being able to now leverage AI for good, fighting against the larger companies that may have, in this case, denied somebody that should have, received, healthcare when they weren't. So I love the story, and I love where we're going as a society by using AI for good in this case.
Yeah. And the corporates can use AI, so can we. Consumers are also getting empowered, right? And
Yep.
now we have some real. Now I won't be sounding too much emotional when fighting these denials. I'll be more objective with these kind of appeal letters, etc. Let's talk about another report that came out, and you can see on the screen here as well. This is actually a chart from a Microsoft research white paper. Okay, this research is essentially, title is Working with AI, Measuring the Occupational Implications of Generative AI. What it does is this paper actually goes into detail of the identifying which occupations are susceptible, right, to from the impact of the AI. So what it does is it considers two data sets. They've taken the Copilot, basically the Copilot on the Bing, that they've taken it as a data set, like usage over the 9 months, the kind of task that people are using it for. And then what it does, it takes another data set, which is released by the Department of Labor, which has the task for each of the occupation, right? So it breaks down every occupation down to the task that occupation is supposed to perform. And then it tries to match those tasks and the applicability of those, how those tasks are being performed by usage of the Copilot, for example. What you see here on the screen, then you will see something called, basically, the different jobs, right? So different jobs that people have, and there are two things. The first chart essentially is the top half, top level of the top, I would say, quadrant of the jobs, which can be highly impacted by the AI, right? Which are the job which can be done very successfully by AI. The first column actually is the job title. The second one is essentially how much, it is a weighted score, how much of the tasks are basically are covered by the AI. The next column, completion, is essentially how successfully that task can be done, right? And the scope is that how much of those tasks can be done by the AI again. And then they give it a score, and you can see the number of employment for each of those jobs, which are also listed, which come from the Department of Labor statistic, right? So these are the top 40 occupations with highest AI applicability score. The first one is interpreters and translators, and we all know that that's highly susceptible to the AI. That can be easily done by the AI, for example. Historians, passenger attendants, right? The sales representatives of services as well. Some of the part of the job that we do, Jamie, as well, right?
So yeah, so I'm thinking about how this is actually used. So should an individual look at this and say, the top jobs here, like with a score of 49 for interpreters and translations, those would be the positions or jobs that would be most vulnerable to
Yes,
AI?
yes. Those you can say most vulnerable to AI or most impactful in using AI, right? So both ways, right? Essentially, one leads
Yeah,
to another.
depends on
Um,
how, if you look at the glass half full or half empty, I guess, right?
yes, I'm presenting both the views. So yes, AI assisted, and of course, and which is unsurprisingly, a lot of those jobs are basically knowledge workers job, right? So there's no surprise there. And if you see the next one, right, the next half, the last quadrant of those lists is essentially more physical oriented job, right? More of a blue collar workers job, right? The dredge operators and the bridge and lock tenders and helpers, roofers, tire builders. Of course, AI still can do that, right? Now, this is not based on robotic, right? Remember, this is only generative AI, so it doesn't touch upon the physical aspects of it, but that's what it is. So, you know, I think it's a good list. I would say that the way people should look at it is and see that, okay, what part impactfully they can do. Look, I'm in the sales, I'm in the customer facing. We both are part of the field organization, Jamie. But I believe strongly that, the AI helps me a lot. Yes, it may reduce the number of the jobs of my type of role, but not completely eliminate. The reason being simple because we know what we do and what part is done from a human point of view, right? The deals
Yeah.
are still emotionally made, that decisions are still emotionally made. Now, let's say on the other side, and this is the perspective to think of, until there is a human on the other side, the field and the customer representatives are still absolutely required, right? No human is going to make a decision by interacting with the AI bot. Now, until the buyers and deciders themselves become the agents, that's a different story altogether. The tables will be turned. But that's what is the perspective I will share.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could walk away from this study on. It's obviously, the hands-on jobs, those are the ones less impacted, at least for today. As you said, this is not robotics. There certainly would be a different slant if we take robotic, AI into account, and be interesting to look at this same study, 5 years from now, once robotics even moves further ahead than where it is today. But where you just mentioned the things that we do, I use AI in my day-to-day job and then some. You know, if I would say half of my day is using AI in some shape or form, I'm not exaggerating. And what that's done for me, and I'm sure you might say the same, it's made us more productive so we could do more in a shorter amount of time. And that's the way you probably want to look at these things, is no matter what role that you have or what, job position, it's how can you leverage these tools to your advantage. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For example, one of the example I'll say, Jamie, that sometime a customer may ask a very simple query, and sometime when I respond, I simply use a Copilot in Outlook. Half of the time, it gets it right. Right, it can give me the very specific, very easy answer. But when the things start getting complicated, right, there are other nuances, etc., and that's where you cannot just simply get an. You have to use it as an assistant, right? It doesn't completely automate the job. You have to bring a lot of context, a lot of nuances, and however, it is a beautiful assistant in most part of the job.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I always tout whenever I'm talking to an organization or even my friends and family, it's human, AI, and then human, meaning that you're still involved in that loop somewhere, and especially on the verification of things, never just take what it generates, for granted.
Absolutely, never do because I found the discrepancies.
It's wrong sometimes. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Okay, great. I think we went a little bit over, but we will stop here so that we can continue to keep it as close as possible to half an hour.
Sounds good. Thanks again, everybody, for listening and watching along with us. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jimmy.